Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the word of the day is fizzle. And I'm not talking about like fajizzle jizzle of Snoop Dogg and all that, although I am living my best life. I'm trying my best to live it. But fizzle, and the definition I picked, I think, is very appropriate to today's events, the events of the day, so to speak. Fizzle, to fail or end feebly, especially after a promising start. Couldn't you basically label all the Democratic Party that way? You know, after the release of the Mueller report, man, it was supposed to be all this sizzle. It was supposed to be, like Snoop Dogg says, the fajizzle. It was supposed to be the beginning of the end for DJT and people like JMT. We were supposed to have to get out and apologize and say, you know, hey, I've been like Fonzie, man, I've been wrong all this time. But it turns out that their fizzle is our sizzle. And hey, we've been right all along. Trump wins again, baby. Are you tired of winning? I don't think so. But anyway, it's just crazy what's been happening the last couple of days and the reaction to it. So we're going to talk about several different stories that I think will press this point home. And our first one, and I put my own little title to it. It's coming to you from Yahoo News. Like, I mean, we could all, Yahoo! You know, whenever we heard the Mueller report, I'm sure there was a Yahoo shout out, man. Because I know around here, man, we say that all the time, even though Yahoo is kind of fizzling itself. But that's a side story. But this comes to you from Yahoo News, and my little subheading is AOC, Ocasio-Cortez, is she sizzling or fizzling? I think the jury's still out, man, but she's been fizzling a bit lately. People are dying, Ocasio-Cortez says here. That's the title of this article. People are dying. Ocasio-Cortez defends Green New Deal from elitist knock. So in other words, people have been saying that it's elitist, and there was a congressman specifically that said it, and we're going to reveal that in just a moment. But Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on Tuesday tore into Republican colleague who suggested the so-called Green New Deal she is championing is elitist. And it got to thinking about that because, you know, we've been saying that, of course, of Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal, and Billy Bob and I talk about this all the time. If you haven't met Billy Bob, and I know we've got new listeners coming on all the time, this is my psychic sidekick. He kind of keeps me straight. He has a Twitter handle, by the way. It's at BillyBobBass1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. We hadn't been doing a lot of Twitter twatting lately, but we're gonna keep at it. So if you want to contact either of us directly through Twitter, please have at it. The more followers we have, the more obviously we can get out there. But him and I have been talking about this a little bit. And, you know, because I've been saying if the Green New Deal actually comes to pass, and keep in mind that I believe it's hard to keep up with all the 2020 presidential Democratic candidates because more of them keep coming on and off every day, right? But I believe I'm correct when I say that all of them have categorically signed up for the Green New Deal. So I want to, as I've been saying, on the very first Democratic debate, the first question should be, and hey, I know it's not going to be on Fox. They won't let them have Democratic debates. But, you know, I'm talking to the chair of the Democratic Executive Committee at the national level. You know, sir, this is what I suggest to you. The very first question should be a two-parter. One, do you believe in the Green New Deal? And, of course, hold your hand. You know, famous like, how many of you believe in it, you know, the Green New Deal? And then everybody that raised their hand, then the next question should be, well, how did you get here? And if it wasn't on the back of a jackass, if it was on a fast train, a slow plane, or whatever, then you're a hypocrite. And I quoted this jackasses on jackasses because that's what they're going to be if they have the Green New Deal. So I got to thinking about it in the context of that. Are there elite jackasses? I mean, I know there's like, I live in kind of horse country. Ocala, Florida is just a little bit south of where we are right now. And, you know, it's one of the, outside of Kentucky, it's probably the biggest horse area in the country for race horses and stuff like that. So I know there are elitist horses. There are horses that have been, you know, millions of dollars and stuff paid for. But are there elite jackasses? I don't know. I don't know if there are or not, but I guess it depends on who's riding them, right? But back to the story here. This is not an elitist issue. This is a quality of life issue. I love that, and I'm going to expand on that in a minute. Ocasio, of course, said this during a House Financial Services Committee meeting. She went on to say, you want to tell people that their concern and their desire for clean air and clean water is elitist? Tell that to the kids in the South Bronx, which are suffering from the highest rates of childhood asthma in the country. And she talks more about some other cities, and we'll get into that in just a moment. But if you, and I don't deny that children in the South Bronx, it's asthma in New York in general, New York City, has been a huge problem. So she's absolutely right about this. But she's not the solution. She's the problem. And I'm not talking about her individually, but it's Democrats, socialists like her, like the current Comrade de Blasio mayor of New York. They're the ones. You know, you can't blame the Republicans for what's happening in New York City because they have no say in it, basically. So, you know, it's run. You look at any place in America that is having a really bad environmental problems, and they're all run by Democrats. Every dadgum. I challenge you out to show me a major American city or even a mid-level city that is run by Republicans that is having terrible health issues, water, sewer issues, all that kind of stuff. Tell me one. I'm waiting. So I could be wrong, and unlike the media, which we're going to talk about them specifically in a moment, I don't mind admitting if I'm wrong. I make mistakes. Hey, I make mistakes all the time. I had one listener point out, because I said, you know, we knew who Trump was. He's been married 3, 4, 5 times, and they pointed out, he's only been married 3 times. Get your facts right. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, mea culpa here. Donald Trump's only been married 3 times. And anyway, I admit I was wrong. He wasn't married 4 or 5 times. It seems like it, but you know, it's okay. But anyway, this whole idea of quality of life, man, I want to talk about that for a minute, because the left, this is one of their mantras. As I've told you, I live in a blue wave. I've lived in a blue wave my whole life, right here in Alachua County. If you want to see where I live, let me tell you, I want you on my side of the wall, by the way. If you want to know how progressive it is where I live, look at one of those red blue maps of counties, and in Florida, look up in the top, like north central part, and you'll see this big blue lake, and that's Alachua County, where our county seat is Gainesville, Florida, the home of the University of Florida, and we have some of the most progressive people around here you have ever seen, man. It's just amazing. But they always, I've heard this for years, quality of life, and I agree. It's a good thing about quality of life, you know, but here's the thing where I differ from them. I actually find out that the more responsible I am, the more freedom I have to pick and choose where I spend my money, and the fact that I actually have a little bit of money, you know, my quality of life is directly related to the quality of my pocketbook. I mean, it just is. And the more they take from me, the less my quality goes down. But you look at it, all the policies of the progressive left are intended, or at least the result is, they lessen an individual's quality of life. In everything they do, all their policies are designed to stifle quality of life, man. They want to keep people poor because they say the Democratic Party, we're the party of the poor, although they, you know, have billionaires donating all around. Of course, so if you're the party of the poor, it only stands to reason that you want more poor people to come in. That's why they want open borders. And those that are already here that are poor, they need to stay poor, because if they actually elevate themselves from poverty and become get a job and produce things, they might actually get conservative and stop, you know, their taxes all the time. I mean, so it's in the Democrats' best interest to keep people poor, period, because they are, by their own words, the party of the poor. So, you know, that heaven forbid you actually, American dream, want to be rich. But back to the article. Tell that to the families. This is Ocasio-Cortez. Tell that to the families in Flint whose kids have their blood ascending in lead levels. Their brains are damaged for the rest of their lives, she continued, and called them elitists. Well, I'm going to use the Democrats' words. If true, it's because of people like you, AOC. It's because of Democratic socialists. They run Flint, Michigan. It's not like it's a bunch of hardcore conservative MAGA hat wearing Republicans. I mean, can you imagine? You look at the city commission of Flint, Michigan. Do you see a lot of like Trump supporters there, man? Trump, Trump, Trump. I mean, no, they're all AOC supporters. And that's why matter of fact, if you go look at the Flint story, we're not going to get too deep into it. The Republican governor, the last one they had, it's been a while, actually offered some solutions to them, and they turned it down. Flat out turned it down. Oh, yeah, look at the MAGA hats on those dudes, man. So, AOC, I agree with you. I agree with you that politicians have been ignoring this for way, way too long. And our inner cities are going to hell in a handbasket. I'm with you, AOC, but the solution is not more of you. It's actually less of you. That's what we need. We need less AOC, not more. Moments earlier, you wonder why she got in such a tiff, why she got in such a Twitter twat. Representative Sean Duffy, Republican, them nasty Republicans from Wisconsin, I didn't know there were that many in there, but Wisconsin blasted the ambitious environmental plan, the Green New Deal, the plan to move the country towards zero carbon emissions. Duffy said, if you're a rich liberal from maybe New York or California, it sounds great because you can afford to retrofit your home or build a new home that has zero emissions. That's energy efficient. Well, let me tell you a quick little story. I ran into a buddy of mine I hadn't seen in a long time. He travels a lot, but he's based out of California now. And his family had lost everything. They had a big compound. I'm not going to reveal their names, but they had a big, when I say compound, they had this retreat, this kind of a spiritual retreat area, and they travel the world doing this stuff. And actually, my friend's sister is kind of famous in it, but I'm not going to reveal that. But they lost everything in that campfire fire out there in California. They live in a rural area. They lost it all, including, and I know this is heartbreaking because this friend of mine, she's a very accomplished pianist, and she lost her original piano that she'd had since she was, a child, so almost 60 years because she's the same age as me, 58. And so it's irreplaceable. But he told me that I said, well, you're going to rebuild? And these people are fairly liberal. I mean, not just fair, they're very liberal, okay? They're very liberal, probably very progressive. But he said he doesn't know, and I talked about it, and part of the reason is because the extra cost of all the rules and regulations, see, their place was old. And it's gone. So insurance will cover like some rebuilding of the actual structure. But all these things have changed about the permitting process and all these things through California over the years. And they don't know if they can get through all of that stuff. So, if people are having trouble, I mean, this congressman, Mr. Duffy, is absolutely right. It's only Hollywood elites and stuff can afford to build homes out there, man. The price of homes in California has just skyrocketed, by the way. And some of it is due to cumbersome rules and regulations. The Green New Deal, which was introduced last month by Ocasio-Cortez and Senator Ed Markey from Massachusetts, failed in the Senate on Tuesday after Republicans pushed a controversial bill for what, and I would call, this is my word, it was a show vote. It was an intentional show vote, just to show, and they do that all the time. Both sides of the aisle do that. Not one senator voted in support of the non-binding resolution. All Republicans and 4 members of the Democratic caucus voted against it. Others voted present. Think about that, present. So most of the Democrats just voted present. Shouldn't that actually be illegal, really? It should be, I think. I don't think you, and now it's one thing if you're not there. But if you're there, I think you should have to cast a vote, yay or nay. I don't think you should be able to abstain. In the state of Florida, for instance, I know like city commissions, if you're on a city or county commission, you cannot abstain. You cannot, you have to vote. If you're, and you'll see famously, some people on controversial issues, they'll famously have to go to the bathroom or they got a pressing phone call because they don't want to vote, so they leave the room. But in Florida, you can't, if you're in the physical room, you must cast a vote. And I think that's the way it should be. But of course, they're taking their lead from, Emperor Obama, because he voted present in Chicago when he was a state senator in Illinois. He voted present over 129 times that Obama voted president. And the thing is, they don't vote present when they're renaming a post office or a school. They vote present when it's really controversial. Because most votes, let me just tell you the truth, whether you're on a city commission like Hawthorne or all the way up to Congress, most of the votes you cast are not that big a deal. They don't really impact people. A lot of them are naming a road and stuff like that. And yeah, I can understand that. But the ones that really count, if you're in that room, you should vote. And that is the people. If you go back and look at Obama's history of voting present, it was on issues where he was afraid to be counted. That should have been brought up more by, you talk about the mainstream media, that should have been brought up and explored more. Why didn't he vote on controversial issues? Because he didn't want to have any record at all. And he was probably the least experienced person we have ever elected to the presidency, and that's just a fact. And I think we paid the price for that, but that's another story. Ocasio-Cortez, who in January suggested implementing an income tax rate of up to 70% on wealthy Americans to pay for her Green New Deal, said the environmental costs to Americans are coming. Well, there's a big flaw in this. If you look at the actual numbers that it would take to implement this Green New Deal, even a conservative estimate, it's basically more money than is in the entire world, let alone the United States. And this idea, and hey, let's just say, hey, let's tax the rich. I got no problem taxing the rich, but the reality is we don't even talk about the 1%, because the 1% are so wealthy that they can go anywhere they want. They can move out of New York like they're doing, even the lesser than the 1%. But they literally are citizens of the world. And I'm not being critical of them in that. It's just a fact. If you're in the top 1% of earners in the United States of America, then you're a multi-billionaire. You can go anywhere in the world you want, as could Donald Trump. And he sacrificed to become your president, whether you like it or not. And I actually applaud the guy for it. But the real figures here, let's just forget about the 1%. How about the top 10%, okay? So let's just take a bigger sampling. Do you know how much in federal income tax the top 10% pay? It's over 50%. It's like 53% of all the taxes, the federal income tax paid, that you have the power to implement. They're already paying the lion's share of the taxes. You could debate whether they should or shouldn't. But the fact is, they're already paying that. And it's beyond just the income tax, because think about this. If you're a wealthy individual in this country, you're obviously buying a lot of stuff, so you're paying higher sales tax, a lot more, not higher, but more sales tax. And you probably own a lot of property in the state of Florida. We don't have an income tax. We have a property tax. And I can tell you that the bulk of the property taxes are paid by wealthy individuals who own the most expensive property. So this whole idea of taxing the rich, man, I'm all for it. Let's tax the rich. But it's not going to solve the problems you're talking about, Ocasio-Cortez, because guess what? I hate to break it to you, snowflake, but we're already taxing the rich. It's already being done. If you don't believe me, just talk to your governor, Cuomo. He bemoaned how the rich are hauling ass out of New York as fast as they can because of the taxes in New York. So don't take my word for it, AOC. Ask Cuomo, your governor, who actually got more votes in your district than you did. No one really ever talks about that, but hey. She says here, and we're going to play a video. Have we got that video of Ocasio-Cortez you were looking for, Jay? We didn't ever get it figured out? Okay.
Concerned about helping oil companies than helping their own families? I don't think so. I don't think so. This is about our lives. This is about American lives. And it should not be partisan. Science should not be partisan. We are facing a national crisis.
I mean, she goes on to say, people are dying. I mean, she goes on, man. And no facts. Here's the thing. She's a perfect little communist, a perfect little socialist Democrat, because they're very impassioned. She's impassioned. I mean, that chick is passionate, man. I mean, she is. I give her that, you know. And hey, I like the passion. I'm all for it. But every now and then, you could actually slip a little fact in there. Because the fact that people are dying, I hate to tell you, they've been dying for a while. But she says, people are dying, they're dying. This is about American lives, and it should not be partisan. Science should not be partisan. And, you know, and yes, they are. They are, Ocasio-Cortez. I came up with a little factoid. This is not my opinionated fact. It's just the fact. You could Google it, but remember, as I've told you, Google is of the devil. But here's a little fact for you, Miss Ocasio-Cortez, and it ties right in with climate change. Researchers say that the total world population at the end of the last ice age stood at between 1 and 10 million people. So the total population of the world at the end of the last ice age was between 1 and 10 million people. So in other words, not even the size of New York City. After 2 million years of development in the previous ice age, the human population collapsed to near extinction. So we almost went away, man. The severe collapse indicates to some degree the severity of the climate conditions on Earth during the Ice Age. So you're absolutely right. And that climate change can lead to extinction. There is no doubt about it. And I'm 100% in agreement with you, Ocasio-Cortez. Now, before you tune out, just hear me out, because I just read it to you. Climate change actually pushed man or human beings, womanhood, whatever you want to call it, to near extinction. So thank God that it warmed up, because if it had kept getting colder, one thing's for sure, you and I wouldn't be here to debate this issue, okay? Unless we were like, you know, one of the 100,000 people that basically survived or something. I don't know. You know, I can tell you what. The people that built this country, the good old boys like me, are more likely to survive than the snowflakes like you. I can tell you that. You guess what? If the world actually does come to an end, you know where you people like you are going to be running? You're going to be running to find some MAGA hat, gun-toting sons of guns. I can tell you that right now. I got my theme song playing. Old country boy can survive. That's kind of the theme song. We talk about cost, she says. We're going to pay for this whether... and play on words there, whether we pass a Green New Deal or not. Because as towns and cities go underwater, as wildfires ravage our communities, we're going to pay, and we're either going to decide if we're going to pay to react or if we're going to pay to be proactive. Well, first thing, good news. We talked about this, I believe, yesterday. The largest glacier that has been melting the fastest in the last 2 years has been growing the fastest. So maybe it's good news that, you know, we're coming into another ice age, but it probably ain't good. And we might have 100,000 years left to live if it keeps getting colder. But so I guess it depends on how you look at good news or bad news. But here's the thing about progressives. One thing, and this makes her a perfect little progressive, because cost is totally irrelevant. She fits right in, because I can tell you, if you want to do a little test. If you have a progressive county, city commission, school board, any of those kind of things, Democrat run. If you in Flint, Michigan, for instance, and you want to see, go and it doesn't matter what topic they're discussing. When it comes for citizen comment, go up there and ask 2 questions, basically. Ask, how much is this going to cost, and who is going to pay for it? And if you're at a Democratic-controlled institution, they will look at you like you just came from Mars, because it's irrelevant. The cost is irrelevant, and who is going to pay for it is you. So that's who's going to pay for it. So you just have to understand, as progressive, cost is there, because if the policy is righteous, brother, if it's righteous, and she kind of talks about this, what difference does it make what it costs? Because who's going to pay for it is you. That's the fact. She added, she says, I'm very sad to say that government knew that climate change was real starting as far back as 1989. Oh my God, so we had a history that went back to 1989? I'm going to turn 30 this year. Happy birthday, girl. And for the entire 30 years of my lifetime, we did not make substantial investments to prepare our entire country from what we knew was coming. Well, I hate to break this to you, AOC. I don't know if you're lying or just full of bull. If you're full of bull, I hope you're not farting, but that's just another story. It's just a lie. What you're saying is absolutely a lie. Let me give you an example of this. We've made great strides in this country. If you've lived a little bit longer than 30 years, you might realize that this country had a much worse pollution problem. And hey, I'm all about the environment, man. I've made my living off and on over the years in the environment. I'm a big pro trying to protect our oceans. You know, I'm the old salty dog. I hadn't been fishing in a few weeks, and I'm about to go stir crazy. I'm going next weekend, Lord willing, and the creeks don't rise too far. But so I'm all with you on protecting the environment. I do believe, and I've said it many times, I believe we should lessen our footprint on this planet Earth to the least extent that we possibly can. But I don't want to forgo my quality of life. I don't want other people to suffer for my benefit, that kind of thing. But to me, conservation, conservative, they kind of go hand in hand. Anyway, Republicans get a bum rap on the environment. And let me just show you one example. Does anybody remember, now this is way, way before you were born, child, Ocasio-Cortez, the Cayuga River in Cleveland caught fire. A river that was burning, the water was burning in 1969. Trump was alive, so it was probably his fault. I don't know if he was in Cleveland at the time. But in 1969, the Cayuga River caught fire because it was so polluted. Now, when's the last time a river caught fire? I don't think we've had any more of them. And you know why? Because Congress and the president at the time passed and signed the Clean Water Act. It became law in 1972. Now, you could argue whether that should have been done, and it's been, added on to in regulations, and Trump has cut some of those regulations, and rightfully so. Regulations don't have to exist forever. But guess who the president was in 1972? Richard Milhouse Nixon. So Nixon, the guy that they want to beat up a lot, and some of it deservedly so, Richard Nixon signed the Clean Water Act. So this idea that we haven't been doing anything, I mean, I've made a living on environmental issues when I used to be an electrician, working in big powerhouses, using scrubbers to scrub coal and all. I mean, we have been doing a lot over the years to try to cut back on pollution more than any other country on the planet. Have we done enough? You could make a case we hadn't, but have we done the most? There is no doubt about it. But Duffy wasn't the only GOP lawmaker to mock the plan on Tuesday. Senator Mike Lee, Republican from Utah, and part of that dirty dozen, by the way, Mr. Lee. Explain yourself. Come on the show and explain yourself why you voted against the president. Attempted a strange pivot in a speech on the Senate floor, and I would agree this is a little bit strange. He said the solution to climate change is not this unserious resolution, Lee said. The solution to so many of our problems at all times and in all places is to fall in love, get married, and have some kids. It was an interesting response. You could see bizarre, but what really got me was Ocasio. This fired her up even more because she went on a Twitter twat thing. She said on Twitter, if this guy, talking about Lee, if this guy can be senator, you can do anything. And once again, I'm in agreement with you, Ocasio. Not necessarily about Mr. Lee, because I was kind of a fan of his till he started going against the president. But hey, when you say you can do anything, in other words, she's implying that if this dude can become a senator, hey, anybody can. Well, your life story proves that you're 100% correct. Because if you, who even in this passion speech said, last year I was a bartender and now I'm here, and basically going to be queen of the world. She's going to be the end of the world. She's going to be like the queen of the damned, because, of course, we're all damned, right? Probably should have got that video where that queen of the damned is walking, everybody's burning up, because that basically is Ocasio. We'll have to get that in the future, because she's saying the world is ending in 12 years, and so your life, baby, is proof that anybody can get to Congress, man. So I don't know if she's fizzling or sizzling. I guess that depends on, maybe we could have a game show like that. Fizzling or sizzling? All right, moving on to the next story here. Check my time. And this comes to you from Politico. And they just won't give it up, man. These Democrats will not give it up. And I would say this story is more fizzle than sizzle. I don't think there's any question of it. Let's see if you agree. House Democrats make new push for 10 years of Trump's financial records. It's a tax return. We got to see the tax return. We got to see the fine. But it's more. It's much deeper than that. I mean, these people, man, they know no shame. The House Oversight and Reform Committee is seeking 10 years of President Donald Trump's financial records from an accounting firm, according to a letter obtained by Politico. 10 years. Wow, they want 10 years. How much are they going to spend on? Let's just assume they were to get these records, you know, just for the sake of conversation. How much time and energy are they going to spend trying to get them, then they're going to go through them and then report in the subcommittee? I mean, they spent, what, $24 million officially? It's a lot more than that on the Mueller report, which was total BS, right? And we're going to talk more about that in a minute. How much are they going to spend on this? It's in the millions for sure, right? They probably already spent that much. But let me give you some breaking news. Let me just save you some time right here. And people with that maybe love President Trump might not like to hear this. But hey, I give you the unvarnished truth right here, right? I'm pro-Trump, but I'm also real. So let me just give you the inside scoop on President Trump's tax returns, because I got them. I absolutely have the inside scoop. I know exactly what's on them. You ready? He paid as little taxes as he possibly could, made as much money as he possibly could, and took advantage of every tax loophole, deduction, reduction, whatever you want to find. I guarantee you that he did that, because Donald Trump, see, those of us out here, I hate to break this snowflakes to you because this is going to melt the hell out of you. It might, you know, end the ice age forever. But we knew who Donald Trump was. He's a billionaire playboy. You know, now he's happily married, and hey, I mean, you know, you look at the family he's got, man, who wouldn't want to be? They hate him for that too, I'm sure. But Donald Trump, man, has made a lifetime's work out of making as much money as he said this himself, as he possibly could, and paid as little taxes as he possibly could. So I hate to tell you this, Ocasio, but maybe, I mean, I don't, you know, I know you couldn't afford to live in Washington, but now you got the most swankiest part of town you live in now, and I don't think you're pedaling a bicycle, but just in case you are, and you want to upgrade your jackass when the time comes, you might take a little advice from Donald Trump. Pay as little taxes as you possibly can, make as much money as you possibly can, and take every deduction that you possibly can.
Big whoop.
Wow. What more could Congress find out than that? I mean, that he had a deal to build Trump. I mean, think about it. It's just this fantasy world they live in. Donald Trump doesn't hide squat when it comes to his financial stuff. He puts his, if you want to know, man, we got to find, can you imagine searching for a Trump property? Do you have to search? Do you have to do like a map quest for a Trump property? Can't you just walk around a city and go, Trump? I mean, there it is. He puts his name. Now, you could argue that the guy's a bit bombastic, egotistical and all that. Sure he is. I knew that too when I voted for him. But you don't have to like, fine, you don't have to do like, you ask anyone, go to any city and ask them if Donald Trump owns property there. They can torture. There it is right there. Trump. You know what I mean? The man, I mean, he's secret. He's so secret, man. So how far are these Democrats willing to go? There is no limit to it. This next part of the story, to me, just cracks me up. But it's serious, man. It's really serious and worthy of Congress's time. A Democratic-led committee asked this Mazars USA, that's the accounting firm, that one that Donald Trump used for a business deal that didn't come through, much like the Moscow project. It didn't actually happen. A tax and accounting firm for documents this month related to Trump's personal finances with a particular, now this is how serious it is for Congress, with a particular focus on his failed bid to purchase the Buffalo Bills before he became president. The Buffalo Bills. I mean, so we're going to, I mean, first of all, man, Trump, man, what were you thinking? The Buffalo Bills? Because he likes winning. And the one thing we know about the Buffalo Bills for a while now, winning ain't been part of it. Now, when I was younger, I know you snowflakes don't believe, but not know this because there was a history before like 2000. The Buffalo Bills used to be in the Super Bowl about every year. But the last time they were in the playoffs was 1999. That's the last time the Bills were in the playoffs. So in March of 2014, Donald Trump made a bid. Now, keep in mind, he's always wanted to be in sports. He was part of the original owners of, I think, was it the World Football League or maybe the USFL? It was the team that up in Boston, I think. It doesn't really matter. But he was part of pro sports. And so I have no doubt that he wants to be in that. I mean, most billionaires, they like to involve themselves in sports. They like to have a good time, right? But the Bills, man, how much better would they have been under Trump? They damn sure couldn't have been any worse. So if you're a Bills fan out there, you're probably saying, man, I wish Trump had bought these people. But the NFL, they didn't want him in there. They didn't want Trump in there. And one of the reasons, quite frankly, it had nothing to do with the success, the man's obvious success, but Donald Trump is pretty boisterous and out front. He's always been that way. He's an attention seeker. And if you look at the owners of the NFL, they already got one of those dudes, Jerry Jones, right? They don't really, most owners of NFL teams don't like to be in the media. And so I think it's very logical from their perspective. I might not agree with it, but their perspective, they don't want a showboat owner in the NFL. They got one more than they want in Jerry Jones. So, and I'm not surprised that him and Trump are actually friends. But it's a nothing burger. It really is. So, it says it reflects an effort by committee under Chairman Elijah Cummings. He's the one behind all this, Democrat from Maryland. A big surprise there, to corroborate aspects of former Trump attorney and fixer Michael Cohen, who's got Michael's got enough on his hands. He's got to worry about old Ben Dover. He's going to be in there, the two Mikeys, Mikey Avenatti and Michael Cohen. They got a bit more to worry about than Donald Trump right now. But Chairman Elijah Cummings, now, this guy is full of buffalo. I mean, we know that. This dude is spouting Buffalo something. I don't know if he's a Buffalo Bills fan, but he's a Buffalo bullshit fan, I can tell you that. I mean, the fact that this guy is seeking all this speaks enough. Cohen told lawmakers here, and now, wait a minute. I know you people, I'm getting ready to give you some bad news here. Because you're wondering what Michael Cohen, what the goods he has on Donald Trump. Because Cohen, if anybody's got the goods on Trump, it's Cohen, right? So I'm about to reveal to you some shocking news. Cohen told lawmakers that Trump inflated his personal net worth as he sought to buy the NFL team. He also claimed that Trump sought to reduce his tax burden by deflating the value of certain assets. So he said he's worth more than he is, and he tried to pay as little tax as he possibly could. I already broke that, right? I mean, come on, man. That's how you do business. What was Trump supposed to do? Go like, I'm getting poor every day, and I owe money on the taxes, but hey, I want to buy your team. Come on. I mean, Trump is a salesman by his very nature. Do you really believe someone sells you a car and tells you, hey, you ought to buy this car, but that one tire is going bad and it's wobbling a little bit, and there's a cigarette burn in the back seat. You might want to. And I think it's a cigarette, and that little smell, you smell it, they ignore. I mean, come on, man. See, maybe CNN needs to investigate. But they don't do that, right? Jeff Zucker, the CEO, says when he talked about the Mueller report and defending CNN, well, we're not investigators, even though we revealed yesterday that CNN actually has a website that says, guess what? CNN investigates. I mean, so these people, man, speak with forked tongue is like an understatement. But Elijah Cummings revealed in his letter to this accounting firm, Mazaris, that the company signed the president's financial statements, some of which Cohen disclosed to the committee, to the public, ahead of congressional testimony. So we got to get to the bottom of the Buffalo Bills failed purchase. I mean, God, I'm hanging on every word of them. It is a national security issue, right? Democrats have vowed to investigate these and other explosive claims Cohen made during his marathon public hearing before the panel last month. Cummings gave Mazars USA until April 3rd to turn over the documents. I like how they say explosive claims. Go back and look at the Cohen testimony. The explosive claims, basically everything that they asked about Trump, Cohen said, well, I have no knowledge of that. I don't know that he has any collusion with them. And I mean, he just answered, I don't know about that. I don't know. But it's explosive, man. I guess with the Mueller fizzle, they got to have something to do. These people have to have something to do up there because Mueller has fizzled and they got no sizzle. They're trying, man, it's funny to watch the media right now. We're going to do a story about them in just a moment where they're just grasping for the next thing, man. So think about how far they have sunk. They sunk from he's Putin's pocket puppet to he exaggerated his wealth when he tried to buy the Buffalo Bills. I mean, wow, man. And he tries to pay taxes as Donald Trump. Oh my God, he tries to pay as little tax as possible and tries to make as much money as he possibly can. God, what would happen if every American tried to do that? I mean, we might be able to pay off the national debt that the Democrats have got us into. But there have been a few Republicans that have spoken up. Jim Jordan from Ohio, and I wish he were Speaker of the House right now, Jim. Maybe you will be soon. Mark Meadows from North Carolina. Both these people have always been pretty good supporters of the president. But they wrote a letter to Cummings, and it says here that the Cummings investigation, this is basically what their letter said, that appears to depart from responsible and legitimate oversight. Boy, these guys are like, that's less, what do you call that when you're stating something that's kind of, you're trying to downplay it, I suppose. And responsible, and it is intended solely to embarrass President Trump and to advance a relentless Democratic attacks upon the Trump administration. That seems to be basically the sole purpose now of the Democratic Party. It is literally just become the anti-Trump party. They have no ideas. What few ideas they have, like Ocasio-Cortez, are just whack job ideas that the Democrats are even trying to tamp down, the progressive swamp rats like Pelosi and Schumer. But, Jordan and Meadows wrote, this is from the letter, we should not waste our limited resources and energies on matters that do not improve the operations of the federal government or better the lives of our constituents. Why would you ever want to do that? Better our lives? Because the Democrats are always talking about the quality of life, while you hanging out. And anyway, it's just crazy. Jordan calling Cummings' investigation an ill-conceived inquiry to the finances of President Trump when he was a private citizen. Well, why are they doing this? Well, keep in mind, the main reason, because as I've told you before, they're really on to something here. Trump, and if you're just listening to the show, just take a deep breath when I say this. President Donald J. Trump has committed, without a doubt, I mean, it is no doubt about it, this man has committed the worst crime in the history of presidential politics. There is absolutely no doubt about that. And you know what that crime was? Wait a minute, drum roll. He got elected. He won. The guy won, and that makes him the worst criminal in the progressives' eyes possible, man.
Liberals are crying their eyes out right now.
They're crying these crocodile tears, man. They really are. He's right about that. And the reason why they got to investigate Trump, all the way to the Buffalo. I thought the Stormy Daniels thing was crazy, but the idea that he inflated his income to buy the Buffalo Bills, that's lower than Stormy Daniels. I'm telling you it is, because think about it. I don't know if Stormy, she may or may not have a few good years left, but the Buffalo Bills ain't had a good year since 1999, so she might have been a better buy. I'm not sure. Although she now owes Donald Trump. Maybe that's why the NFL don't want Donald Trump, because maybe they could see that any guy who could get a pole dancer to pay him, my God, the NFL might have to pay Trump. So that's probably why they didn't want him in. They was afraid he'd actually turn that team around. But the other thing is, keep in mind, and I'm being very serious about this, so let me just lay all jokes aside. Billy Bob, keep quiet. This what the Democrats are doing is it's a scare tactic. It's a scare tactic because a couple of things. First of all, they're scared of you. the deplorables, the dregs, the people that voted for Trump. They're terrified of you. They want you to be beat down and everything else. All this stuff ties back because they hate. There's one person they hate more than Trump, and that is you, the people who supported for him. There's no doubt about that. And the other thing is, they don't want any Republican like Trump, or if any non-Republican, anybody like Trump to ever rise again. They don't want anyone to have the courage. They want to show you that if you stand up, if you come to drain the swamp, we're going to beat you down. And if you try to help President Trump, like serve in his cabinet or in his administration, we're going to beat you down and threaten you with, we're going to ruin your life. It's a scare. It is about as anti-American as you can get. They want to make people who are willing to serve publicly, public service. They want to beat you down if it's in the effort to support the Trump administration or any administration remotely like this, if there ever could be in the future. They want to smash that. They want to make you put your head in the sand and just stay. They just want you to go back to your mushroom status in the corner where they feed you in the dark, in the corner, feeding you bullshit. That's all they want. Because a woke voter, a truly woke voter, which is what Trump supporters are, is the worst nightmare for the establishment of both parties. That's why that explains the union of the never Trumpers and the progressives. They hate Donald Trump, but they hate you even more, and they fear you. It's okay to be feared. Let me check my time, because I got another story I want to get to. Basically, let's see. Anyway, I'll read this part and then we'll go on. It says there that this is what Cummings said. He dismissed Republicans' letter on Wednesday. He said if they had their way, they, the Republicans, the committee would just close up shop for the next 2 years. Man, Congress might ought to do that. But that's not what the American people elected us to do. So you're telling me, Elijah, that they elected you to carry on never-ending investigations of the president, get nothing done. And they really, the people, I mean, you can't make this stuff. So what you're telling me, Elijah, is that the American people went to the polls. Yeah, they voted you sons of guns in, and in your case, back in for the 500th time. That what they really voted for was so you, God, you got to get to the bottom of the Buffalo Bills. I mean, it's the fantasy they live in. But he goes on to say, we're following up on specific allegations regarding the president's action based on corroboration documents. There ain't any documents obtained by the committee, and we will continue our efforts to conduct credible, this is his description, credible, robust, and independent oversight. What that translates into is they just want Donald Trump to die the death of 1,000 cuts, man. That's what they want. And so they're afraid that the fizzle and looking for sizzle. They're afraid that with the Mueller report, it's just fizzled out and they're looking for sizzle. And so we're going to move on here. Now you talk about something, and this is coming from the Daily Beast, and I don't quote them very often, but it's part of my public service. I read certain publications, so you don't have to. My little subtitle here, fizzle, I'm going to get back to the definition because it applies to this quite a bit. To fail or end feebly, especially after a promising start. So to fail or end feebly after a promising start. MSNBC's Trump-Russia ratings fizzle, time to pivot to 2020. Attorney General William Barr's short letter claiming special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation found no clear evidence of collusion between Russia and President Trump's 2016 campaign left some, crying shame, MSNBC personalities dumbfounded on Sunday. I thought dumbfounded was like, isn't that like a line on the application to work there? You must be dumb or found dumb, dumbfounded. Maybe I'm not reading that right. But the short letter, how long should Barr's letter have been? I mean, it could have just been not guilty. He ain't one of them. It could have just been one of the paddles that I've always wanted to hold up a paddle, and they won't let me have. They're afraid I might get dangerous with it. But like at the some of these press conferences, some of these politicians are in, and just hold up and it just say bullshit, bullshit. You know what I mean? And I don't even have to ask a question. I just put up the paddle right there, right? Because I mean, the letter could have just been that. It could have been this. The Mueller investigation was bullshit. And that would be it. It'd be like the shortest letter ever, man.
It needs to be like that scene in Airplane where it's like the overhead thing. Bullshit detected.
Yeah, there you go, the bullshit alert. Beep, 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 beep. Here you go. It'd be the only problem with that, if we actually had one of those, it would just like ring 24/7 over Washington, D.C. It would just be, you know, the whole time, man. You would just go into that and you just run into it. But several hours before Barr's letter was released, former intelligence officer Malcolm Nance predicted, now check this out, predicted on MSNBC, this is before the Mueller report was released, that the report could technically eclipse Benedict Arnold in its level of treasonous activity. Benedict Arnold, man. I mean, I hadn't heard old Benny's name thrown out here in a long time. I gotta wonder how many of the snowflakes that listen and the libtards that listen to MSNBC even know who Benedict Arnold was. I mean, come on. He's considered, I won't get into the whole story, Google it, but Google is of the devil. Basically, Benedict Arnold was considered by many to be the worst traitor to our revolutionary cause because he was a leader in the revolution. He crossed over to the Brits and gave them information that actually led to the killing of some of our soldiers. So, I mean, I don't take his name lightly by any stretch, but I mean, you are really desperate and digging deep to bring up Benedict Arnold, man. So, I mean, give me a break. But Nance returned to MSNBC several hours later with an apology, right? I don't think so. After Barr's letter was made public, the network contributor did little to hide his displeasure about why the investigation hadn't resulted in more criminal indictments. He said, "We've seen these things occur, and in any other standard, these people would have been arrested, they would have been polygraphed, and would have been brought to trial." Man, they're unhinged, man. So he went all the way back to Benedict Arnold. Well, I'm going to take a little trip back in history because there's a song, I think from the 50s and 60s by the great Roger Miller, which is what they want when it comes to Donald Trump. This is what they want. Can we play that song?
Old child, dang me, they ought to take a rope and hang me high from the highest tree. Woman, would you weep for me?
I mean, that's what they want, right? I don't know about Benedict Arnold, but they want to hang President Trump from the highest tree, man. I mean, they just don't care. It doesn't matter. Because keep in mind, if you want to understand this, there's like a county commissioner here in our area that people can't understand because he votes. And I tell them all the time, all you got to know is that he is for zero growth. He's never going to state that, but he's for zero growth. Once you understand that, it explains everything. So if you're a local listener, you probably know who I'm talking about. But here's the thing about Trump. When you're scratching your head wondering why are they going after the Buffalo Bills and they're referring to Benedict Arnold, you just have to start from the truth. The truth is that Donald Trump committed the worst crime in history. He won. He won. He won. Trump is your president. Get over it. But he won. And he's going to win again. Oh, Lord. Oh, God help us. You imagine how crazy. I mean, they're batshit crazy now. Can you imagine what level of crazy they will be if Donald Trump they might actually run to Canada, which would be all right to me. Of course, Canada, you know what's going to happen? Here's a prediction. If it looks like Trump is actually going to win in 2020, Canada's going to start building a wall right there because they don't want these Hollywood freakazoids to come up there. You think they really want Chuck Schumer and all them and all these people to run? What's her name? The one that Donald Trump called a fat pig. She said I was paid to go to Trump rallies. By the way, there's supposed to be a hell of a rally in Michigan tonight. Trump, I can't wait to see it. But over the past 2 years, Nance has been one of MSNBC's most outspoken person. I got to look at my time because I got a video I got to play. Anyway, I tell you what, let's do it this way. I just want to give you the bottom line. This article is really interesting. It's from the Daily Beast. It talks about basically the media is becoming unhinged. They don't know what to do. They really don't. So they're going to be throwing, today, just to give you an example, they were throwing out on today that Donald Trump wants to cut the Special Olympics. That's the big headline now. The Special Olympics. He wants to cut funding to the Special Olympics. That is what they're going on. And of course, they're throwing up the whole thing thing about Obamacare. They're going to be firing so many things, so much stuff against the wall, just trying to happen. And keep in mind, this whole thing was a fantasy from the start. I've been saying this all along. They like shocked. The Mueller report came out the way it's going to come out and the way it came out under and what Barr's letter was. They're shocked. But they've been living in a fantasy that was total BS from the very beginning. Is anyone in their right mind truly believe that Donald Trump lived his whole life just waiting to be a Manchurian candidate and a pocket puppet of Vladimir Putin? I mean, it's just insane. There's just no way of doing that. So we're going to go to this last story I have here, and I just want to play a video. Do we have the Biden video? We're going to pull up this video because I really want you to see this. And I'm going to make a few. I got to give Grabby News credit for this because they pulled up this video. They're a pretty interesting source. Go check them out. Grabby, Grabie News. But this is a video. It's a couple of minutes long of Biden recently talking about several things. Then we'll make some comments. And the reason I want to play this is because this dude is considered the savior for a lot of people of the Democratic Party because the rest of these whack jobs can't win, they think. And they think this guy is the guy that could beat Trump. And he's leading in polls. Now, keep in mind, you always lead in polls until you actually run. But I want to play this because heaven forbid they were actually right and this guy could become our next president. If you watch this and you still vote for this guy, I question your sanity, but play it.
A woman, Anita Hill, a professor, showed the courage of a lifetime, talking about her experience being harassed by Clarence Thomas. We knew a lot less about the extent of harassment back then, over 30 years ago. But she paid a terrible price. She was abused through the hearing. She was taken advantage of. Her reputation was attacked. I wish I could have done something. I opposed Clarence Thomas' nomination. I voted against him. But I also realized there was a real and perceived problem the committee faced. There were a bunch of white guys. No, I mean it sincerely. A bunch of white guys hearing this testimony in the Senate Judiciary Committee. So when Anita Hill came to testify, she faced a committee that didn't fully understand what the hell it was all about. To this day, I regret I couldn't come up with a way to get her the kind of hearing she deserved, given the courage she showed by reaching out to us. The hearing she deserved was a hearing where she was respected, where the tone of the questioning was not hostile and insulting, where the fact that she stepped forward was recognized as an act of courage in and of itself. Because let's face it, back in 1991, it took a lot of courage to take on a man who was so much a part of the establishment and the power structure. I realize I get a little too passionate about this sometimes, but we all have an obligation to do nothing less than change the culture in this country. That's just the laws. We change the laws. Change the culture. The culture. You all know what the phrase rule of thumb means? Where it's derived from? In English common law, not codification law, common law. Back in the late 1300s, so many women were dying at the hands of their husbands because they were a chattel, just like the cattle or the sheep, that the court of common law decided they had to do something about the extent of the death. So you know what they said? No man has a right to chastise his woman with a rod thicker than the circumference of his thumb. This is English jurisprudential culture. A white man's culture. It's got to change. It's got to change.
I mean, where do you start with that, man? I mean,
there are still generations of people, older people, who were born and bred and marinated in it, in that prejudice and racism, and they just have to die.
Hey, that brings up a perfect ticket, right? Oh, Biden and Oprah, that was Oprah basically telling that old white folks just got to die. Maybe they could join together, but I got bad news for you. As soon as you get elected, Biden, you got to die. You know, then Oprah would be president. I mean, this is like white guilt just over the top, man. I'm not saying that there's not racism. I've told you, it's alive and well. The institutional racism is gone. You can't legislate what's in a man's heart. But think about how tortured Biden feels here, man. I mean, come on, dude. Maybe he needs to, like, you know, the opposite of Michael Jackson and just become a black dude. You know, he can not only channel it, because you can say you're anything now, right? Maybe he needs to just get some blackness. Maybe he needs to, you know, maybe the Democratic Party would allow him to actually wear blackface while he campaigns. I mean, this guy, man, and the whole thing about Anita Hill, and it goes into all women should be believed. Now, we kind of realize that all women might not always need to be believed, and maybe not all gay men in Chicago need to be believed, but that's another story anyway. I mean, the guilt that this guy feels, man. I mean, you know, he doesn't look too guilty when he's hugging up on these white women right here. I mean, old creepy Uncle Joe. But the thought that this dude could actually be the next president of the United States, man, it's just scary. I mean, did you go in and grovel at the heels of Obama? How many times did you go to Obama in the Oval Office, and is there like a spot on the carpet where you were going, oh, I'm sorry, I'm a white dude, man? I mean, give me a break. How will we ever, I'll close the show on this, how will we ever, and I hope we do, but how will we ever get to Dr. King's dream? And people forget this, where he says that he wants to see a man or woman in this case, so you don't get crazy, judged not on the color of their skin, but on the content of their character. How will we ever get to this with people like Biden, who everything is about color? The Democratic Party is all about chopping us into pieces, getting us all pissed off, and in some cases maybe pissed on, and finding a common boogeyman, which is Donald Trump and everybody that supports him. I mean, it is just sickening, man. I mean, if there's ever a time for Captain Whitebread to rise up, now is the time, and I don't care what that is, a dog whistle or whatever you want to call it. But Biden's thing, man, what kind of whistle is he putting out there? It's just an insane crap whistle is what it is. But I hope you've enjoyed the show today as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to John Martin Talks if you haven't already. Like us and share us directly from there. I appreciate everybody listening in the various channels that they're listening on. You can also check us out at johnmartintalks.tv. And our YouTube channel, as I say, is going to be redeveloped. Pardon our dust while we improve it. But you can still watch us on our YouTube channel at John Martin Talks. But above all else, ladies and gentlemen, have a blessed day.